care that can be a tough topic. In this case, two authors have written a memoir. They've come together to talk about his experiences called Unfostered Hope. My guests are Sean Carlin, a licensed clinical social worker, and the person who told his story, wrote it down, Kim Calavito Marcusich. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
All right, let's start with how the two of you met. You can take that, Kim.
Well, Chris helped my son when he was struggling in school, and we just knew him for many years, and after a while we became friends, and then we started talking about his personal story, which I couldn't believe.
It's horrendous. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, it's awful.
All right,
awful.
Let's start. There are four of you.
Yes.
What happens in the early days?
So there's my oldest sister, who was about 4 years older than I was. I had an older brother and a baby brother and myself. And we were living in Syracuse, New York. And my mother just one day disappeared. And she left with a guy and left us to our own devices in a house. And we lived there for about a month.
Alone?
Yeah, we had no food. So I came up with the idea of, I borrowed a Cub Scout uniform from a friend of mine, and I took a wagon out, and I basically said we were doing a can drive, and I filled my wagon up, and it fed us for a month.
All right, so somewhere along the line you get into the foster system.
Yes.
Are you all taken together, separated? How does that go?
So my older sister got to stay with a friend because she was, you know, almost 12, I think, at the time. And me and my little brother, they put us together, and then my older brother went by himself to a home.
Which is horrendous in its own right, because
Yeah.
now you're all separated.
Now we're all separated, and, you know, my sister was like my hero. Like, my mother was very physically abusive, and she took a lot of physical abuse from my mother. I can remember, like, trying to wipe blood off her face and stuff like that. Just horrific stuff. And so not having my sister be there to protect me was really scary, but I then knew I had to protect my little brother. And I spent, what, 5.5 years doing.
All right, so how many foster homes were you in and out of?
10. I was in 10 foster homes in 5.5 years. The longest being 3 years, almost, and then the shortest being 2 days.
Were you and your brother together this whole time?
The whole time.
Were you mistreated in all of those homes, or one stands out?
Many. I was in at least 3 that were very abusive, and, you know, the one that sticks out the most is the last one I was in, that was for 3 years, where the abuse just got worse and worse and worse.
Kim, as you're writing this down, it almost sounds unbelievable. How difficult was it for you to put his story in this book, and it's 2 little boys looking at a barn?
It was painful. It was tough, and I knew his story ahead of time. And then, as you know, when you write a book, you have to read it many times and edit it. And every time you read it, you're like, I can't believe that people could be this cruel. And the fact that Chris was able to be sane and then go on to help children his whole life, really, it's amazing.
So now you are spending your life helping others.
Yes.
How's it going?
I love it. Every day is something new, because kids are, you know, they come with new issues day in and day out. I've been doing this for 36 years, working with adolescents and young adults. Kids on the spectrum, kids with behavioral issues, relationship issues.
You work in the state of Connecticut,
Yes.
and we should say there are a lot of loving people.
Yes.
You're trying to fix those who may not be.
Right.
And root them out. Continued success to you. Thank you for telling his story. It's going to make a big difference to a lot of kids.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
And for more on Christopher Sean Carlin's work as a therapist and his book, Unfostered Hope, go to WTNH.com or the News 8 app. And here's the book. They wrote it down. It is so hard to read and so horrific. And at some point, Chris was adopted with his little brother, and a lot of things happened, and they decided not to take his little brother, but just take Chris. So now those two who have been together for 5.5 years are separated. His little brother ends up in the foster care and ages out at 17, and all the things that happened to him. I mean, you can't make this up. And as we said, this was in New York. There's a lot of good foster parents out there, but there are some who need to be rooted out, as he would tell you. So we thank him for telling his story.
That's brave. Courageous to share his story. That's something.